Hey everybody, welcome to the UGAsports.com YouTube channel. We've got a special guest joining us today, as you can see, Mark Immelman from CBS Sports. Mark, how's it going, man? How are you?
Jed, I am good. Nice to see you again, Dave. Here's the truth, right? We've had 23 events, or we're going to have 23 events with CBS this year. We've just finished number 22. So you've got a pretty exhilarated crew. You've got an exhausted crew. It's been a long time, and through the summer here, we've had some unreal golf. I mean, coming back from the BMW Championship, that was electric. And so everyone's on a high. It's the first time CBS is doing all three playoff events. And I mean, I've worked the Tour Championship for many years for PGA Tour Radio and eventually then PGA Tour Live. And now the first time with CBS. So it's a fun time. We're looking forward to this weekend, but we're all kind of looking forward to, well, some of us at least, for a break because the rest of them get right back into football, as you would know, Dave.
Yeah. And I mean, and no better place than Atlanta with finishing up and $18 million on the line.
Yeah.
And the only thing higher number than that is going to be the temperatures out there. When I look at the Tour Championship and look at East Lake, what kind of players does it have? Like, who has the advantage in a course like this?
Well, if you look at the history, it's a beefy golf course. This place is all you want. It's zoysia grass, so the conditions are always pristine, but it's a lot of golf course. The par fours are demanding. They're long. They're kind of straight away. Everything's right in front of you. And the Bermuda rough, normally this time of the year, with the Georgia summertime and some rain and some warm temperatures, it gets gnarly. So it lacks a good driver of the golf ball. You got to have your wits about you around the greens, but I feel like power sets you up for success. And that's why you see guys that have played well around there. Obviously, Rory 3 times winning. Tiger is, he's no slouch off the tee power-wise. Justin Thomas, Dustin Johnson, Patrick Cantlay, who's played well there. He's fairly powerful off the tee too. But a lot of it to me too, Dave, is the grass. Because we only see zoysia a couple of times a year, if anything. And I'll never forget Xander Schauffele, California boy, grew up in San Diego. First time he played there, I was talking with him on the 15th green. That's that island green. And I said to him, Xander, you like the place? And he goes, love it. And I'm like, really? Interesting. Why? And he goes, it's just like growing up on Kikuyu in San Diego. And lo and behold, he plays well, gets in the top 5. He's played well there before. Remember, he won the event one time. So I think the zoysia grass in the fairway has a lot to say as well. So drive the ball well, used to the grass, that gnarly Bermuda and the zoysia stuff, and you're pretty much on your way.
So for those unfamiliar, this is the third of the 3 playoff events. The top 30 in the FedEx Cup rankings get in. There's 3 Georgia guys in it. Brian Harman comes in at 8th. Russell Henley at 12th, and then Sepp Straka squeaking in at that 30th spot. So I guess for starters, I mean, Mark, what have you observed from watching these guys throughout the year? Brian Harman obviously won the Open Championship a few weeks ago. Just from someone who's around these guys, what have been your observations of them as they go through this season?
Well, the one thing, if I had to throw a blanket over all 3 of those guys, and you can throw Harris English and Chris Kirk in there as well, although I feel for Chris because after 2 rounds last week at the BMW, he was projecting well in and had a horrid weekend. I would have lost my mortgage because the way he was playing, I thought he was a surefire thing, but had a bad weekend, so he didn't make it. And Harris was solid most of the year, but didn't advance. But as far as just a common denominator, I'd say they all got great attitudes and they all do themselves very well. Like Brian Harman, for argument's sakes. Like I had him 2 rounds last week at the BMW event. And on Saturday, hit the ball okay, but the short game, he shone. And prior to the round, I said to him, I'm like, hey, I know you're working with Justin Parsons, golf instructor from Sea Island, but tell me about Jack Lumpkin's influence. Now, Jack Lumpkin, for those who don't know, is like, he might be on the Mount Rushmore of golf teachers in the USA or American golf instructors. And he said, Mr. Lumpkin said to me as a young guy that I was never going to be big, so I couldn't play a power game. And so I had to win with a great short game, with a lot of grit, determination, sort of resilience. And if you watch Brian Harman play, that's who he is. And then there's Russell Henley, who's just sort of wildly athletic, he's a wonderful basketball player. He's super athletic, and he's softly spoken. And that's who Russell is. He doesn't try to sort of grab the headlines. Russ is going to show up. He's going to play well. He's a great iron player. He knows it, and that's what he hangs his hat on. And then, of course, there's Sepp Straka, who I would sort of say has grown into a really well-rounded player on tour. And Sepp is that kind of guy too, who came on tour, sort of struggled some, and then just honed his craft and figured out what he had to do to play well. And I was on hand. I had the call on the Sunday afternoon at the John Deere Classic when he won earlier this year. And apart from the aberration, which was the approach shot on the 72nd hole, I thought it was arguably one of the most perfect rounds of golf I've ever seen. From the way he hit the ball, from the way he made decisions, from the places he left himself on the golf course. So he's grown into a very well-rounded player. So they all got great attitudes. They know who they are. They do things their own way, which is admirable. And so I feel like that's the one thing that stood out to me as I've watched them look through the years on the tour, but especially over the recent season.
Now, what's funny is you mentioned all those wins wise, and I don't know if you knew Harman, Henley, and Straka, they each won one time this year, and all three of those events, a Bulldog finished second in all three of those. So it was like a little one. I wonder if they pushed each other from a distance wise, but a Bulldog came in first and second all three of those events.
Hey, Jed, here's a funny story. When I'm lucky enough to work alongside Dave at a PGA Tour event, right? Every so often he'll show up with a little Georgia nugget that I've got to try and slide into the show somehow. And it's always something about the Bulldogs. And so I'm not surprised you would point that out. I will say this. I was on hand alongside of them with a lot of their success. Like I said, I was with Sepp when he won. The week prior to the Open that Harman won, I was calling the Scottish Open, and I had Brian in the final round. And ordinarily he's quite dogged and sometimes a little grumpy on the golf course, but he seemed like he was in good sorts, and he was quite talkative, and we chatted a lot and talked about Georgia football, of course, and about Lee McCoy moving down to Columbus State University. And he just looked to me with the way the conditions were panning out. The flight he hits the ball with, his immaculate short game, that, he could have been a good bet. Now, if I was a gambling guy, I might have laid a little something on him the following week at the Open, which would have worked out well. But I sort of saw the precursor to it. And then with Russell Henley, he lives just down the road from me in Columbus, Georgia. So I see him at the club here often. And then that final round at in Wyndham, at the Wyndham Championship in Greensboro, I was on the call for him. And he was darn near perfect for 14 holes. 14 holes. Then he hits the tee shot down 15, the par 5. They blow the horn for the inclement weather. We go in, and he comes out and hits this unreal shot, makes a 2-putt birdie, and then gets two of the most just despicable lies I've ever seen, and ends up coming up short to Lucas Glover. So I've been on hand for some of their successes. And, it's great to see how well-rounded they are and how they all do their thing, and how the truth, all of them, they're not afraid of the grind and the success and the limelight. And so kudos to all of them.
You mentioned, Dave is always bringing nuggets, and you talked football with these guys on the course. I mean, how much have you learned about Georgia football, college football in general, just from being around those guys? Lucas Glover's a Clemson guy. You got some Oklahoma State guys. Like, how much is college football sort of, does it infiltrate the PGA Tour a little bit when these guys are together for, 4 days every weekend?
Hey, Jed, is the Pope Catholic?
I think so.
Okay.
A little bit. I think so.
Football, college football, the NFL, especially college, though, because they've all got their alma maters, and there's always the sort of the Dari games, and there's those little ones where you have the face-offs, like national championship when it was TCU and Georgia. Mm-hmm. You had the Georgia boys giving Tom Hoagie a whole bunch of grief about the thing. And then in years past, when it's Georgia, Alabama, you got Kisner and JT, Justin Thomas, kind of mixing it up a little bit. And so there's a lot of that stuff on the go. As far as me learning from those guys, look, they're pretty myopic, obviously. they'll talk about the SEC, but if you talk to a Georgia guy, it's all Georgia. And if you talk to a Clemson guy, it's like Clemson is where Jesus went to school, and Oklahoma State is the same thing. So you don't learn very much from them. All the learning I've done is from my 20-something years I've lived here in Georgia. So I did that on my own.
So when it comes to, obviously the Tour Championship is unique because everyone is starting at a score. You've got a Harmon starting at 4 under, Henley at 3, and then Sepp Straka at even, all chasing Scotty Scheffler up there at 10 under. How unique is that? And what are the maybe pros and cons of coming into this with the score and knowing exactly what you've got to do, from that first tee shot on Thursday?
I'm probably going to get a whole bunch of Twitter hate or X, whatever it's called, hate right now, because here's the thing about the Tour Championship with that graduated scoring. I don't mind it. I really don't. And I know a lot of people have an issue with it, but in Formula One, which is massively popular, the NASCAR is massively popular, you earn the pole position. If you go out and you qualify well in the best time, you get pole. And if you don't qualify very well, you're at the back of the starting blocks. That doesn't mean you can't win. Last year, I was on the call all 4 rounds for Rory McIlroy. And Scheffler, maybe it was Rahm, maybe Scheffler, I don't know who was leading last year at 10 under. Rory came in at 4. First hole, he promptly hits it straight out of bounds on the left-hand side, makes a triple bogey. Then bogeys the second hole. So he's ostensibly 4 over par for his round, but he's even for the championship, and he's 10 back of Scheffler. Doesn't play very well that round, cobbles out even par, which was somewhat miraculous the way he hit it. Next day, he shot in the 60s. Saturday, he got better. Sunday, he sucked in Scheffler and won. So it's possible. Now, look, you don't typically see guys going from the even par 1 under and promptly win, but it's highly doable if you get out there early, because the beauty about Eastlake is that opening hole is a handful. If you make 4 fours, you're going to gain strokes. The second hole, a long par 3, is difficult. And then 3 is kind of a handshake. Then 4 is a brute. 5 is difficult. So the first few holes, you could see a whole lot of volatility very early. So if you at 3 under and get off to a fast start and get to 5, for argument's sakes, and Scheffler comes out there and bogeys 1 or 2, you're only 2 or 3 back. Game on with 66 holes to go or whatever. So I like it. I think it's earned. I think it's way easier to tell the story to the viewers and the fans, because in years past, when it was all still points on Saturday and Sunday afternoon, you got Steve Sands there with his whiteboard and the calculator doing calculations to say, well, if so-and-so makes this putt and that guy misses that putt, then so-and-so is going to win. It was a bit messy. It was sort of clunky. Now, yeah, I'm sure they're the detractors from having a graduated start, but I think it's earned. And I think the story is easily told, and the players are okay with it. They know the rules of the road, if you will. So if you're someone who's down the track like a Sepp, at even par, he knows you just got to get busy early. So I look forward to it. I think it's cool. I think it's a novel concept. It's unique. I can't think of another event that does it. And look, it's the way they could sort this thing out and give some sort of an advantage to the guys who played well throughout the season, and then also in the playoffs to earn their spots there up the leaderboard.
So last question for me and Dave. Like you mentioned, Dave has got all the numbers. Georgia has 3 of the 30 guys in the field. That's 10% from one program. I mean, from getting to know a lot of these guys, and like you said, there's Kisner, there's Chris Kirk, there's Bubba Watson, all these guys who have come through the Georgia program. I guess what does that say about the program, where it's at? I mean, Chris Hack has been doing this a long time. Just overall thoughts on the Georgia program, the Georgia golf program, and the guys they're continuously sending up through, the web.com tour, the PGA Tour, all that.
Well, look, the Georgia program it's a banner place. Everyone knows it's good. The players on tour and the Korn Ferry Tour have proved that it's good. And the one good thing about it, the one thing I think Coach Hack does very, very well is it creates an environment of competition. And to make the squad, you've got to be one of the best of the best. And then that's just the team. And then to make the traveling team, you got to qualify. Doesn't matter who you are. So you sort of earn your stripes, if you will, which is very much like in the professional leagues. Well, unlike one, but the PGA Tour, you earn your way, right? You play poorly, Justin Thomas, you don't make the playoffs. Your name value doesn't carry you anywhere, and that's where I think Coach Hack does a wonderful job, and he almost prepares his student athletes for what's upcoming at the next level. Because if you play at Georgia, you have the chops to be able to play at the next level. Now, not everyone does because it's again like the best of the best, but he does a great job there. The record of the place speaks for itself. I just think it's time now for Georgia, and this is a former college coach speaking here, that Georgia got to start, winning a few national championships and stuff again, because now Georgia football's grabbing the headlines, but for a while there, it seemed like every time there was a national championship in golf, if Georgia wasn't winning, they were in the championship game. So look, that there ebbs and flows, and there's good tides and bad tides, but it's a great place to go and play. Every young person I know will be well served to go and play golf there if they're good enough to make the team, because if you've got designs on the PGA Tour, it's a great place to go and get a good education, get your game honed for the next level, because look, the guys at the next level have proved that they can handle it.
There's a lot of people that go to UGASports.com and they will be at the Tour Championship just because the proximity of where it is, and they might see you out and about. What is a typical day for you at CBS Sports from start to finish? Like what goes on the mindset of someone that one of the broadcasters on the group?
My days are a little shorter than your days when you're on the crew. I'll let you talk about that. Typical day for me, we do the Saturday, Sunday broadcast. Ordinarily, it's 3 to 6 Eastern time. At the Tour Championship this weekend, I believe we're from 2 to 6, so you're seeing the entire round of the leaders. So I'll wake up in the morning and I go, my typical thing is like coffee, and I do my quiet time and sort of get my mind and my soul organized. And then I'll grab breakfast. Sometimes it's with colleagues, sometimes it isn't. And then you head off to the golf course, and we'll always go to the driving range and get some sort of advanced insights on the players, where we just talk to guys as they're preparing. We've got an incredible research staff that get us all the information we need. But that insider stuff, that under the hood sort of stuff, we go to the range and we'll talk to players as much as what they will talk. And so you meet with them, you see what clubs they're using, what might have changed, what they're doing. So it's kind of research and preparation. And then it's some lunch, and we'll normally in the green room, all the announcers just get together and sort of be together chemistry-wise and watch some of the golf on TV, the early coverage. And then it's showtime. And we're on the air for 3 hours, 4 on Sunday. And it's all systems go. It's busy. The I don't want to say quiet, but the slow show that you see, it doesn't sound like that in your ear because there's a whole lot on the go all the time. And then after golf is done, then it's into the car, to the hotel, shower, dinner, and into bed. And then it's rinse and repeat in the following day.
One of the other broadcasters with you is your brother. Do you guys have any kind of like sibling rivalry, or not rivalry, but have fun with each other during the broadcast or off the broadcast?
Yeah, we do. Look, as far as timing allows, because our producer, Sellers Shai, does a wonderful job of showing as much golf as possible. So some of it gets recorded, and a recorded shot is typically only about 6 or 7 seconds. So it doesn't give a whole lot of time for back and forth banter. So if the time presents itself, we do have some fun. The cool thing about working with Trevor is, having been because I'm his older brother and having been a coach to him, I sort of understand how his mind works and what he's likely to think and say. And so I can preempt that with some of my comments, and I have a sense for what he might do too. So it makes for interesting, informational back and forth. And then, we tend to try at least once, maybe twice a weekend to drive to and from the golf course together, which is just like brother time, where we just catch up on how the family and the kids are doing and, what the scoop is. So, this last year on tour with him it's been fun. When I was teaching full time or broadcasting full time and he was still playing, and when he was still working for NBC, we were kind of ships in the night. and never really saw each other very much because it was different hotels, different air times and stuff. But now we're in the same place, so a lot of time spent together, dinners and that, and it's been good fun. And I think he's shining in his role alongside Jim Nance. He's doing a great job.
All right. Well, I like to thank you for your time. I mean, if you're in the Columbus, Georgia area, I mean, they should come learn about your instruction wise, or read your books or anything about that. You could just go to markimmelman.com.
Yeah, come check us out, or check out my podcast. I was a college coach for 20 seasons at Columbus State, but I've been a lifetime golf instructor, and so teaching is kind of my DNA. And we have a podcast called All on the Mark, which is global. I mean, the thing's grown beyond what I ever imagined, and it's just golf instruction. And I'm introducing bright minds to the world. And so we've got a tribe of listeners who come there for good stuff. So if you're looking for golf tips, download the podcast as well. It's worth your while.
Probably a lot of people watching could use a golf tip or two.
If you got an episode about snap hooks, I'll be looking that up pretty soon. So
I'm sure there's one in the library, but I'll make sure, Jed, to get someone to talk about that thing very soon too.
Perfect. But yeah, like Dave said, Mark, appreciate you for hopping on with us. Good luck at the championship this weekend. Enjoy it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Go Dogs this season, huh?
Thanks.